Hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, and welcome to Class Movie Rambles, where I talk about old movies that I found in my class while cleaning. This week's movie is Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. It's about 1 hour and 46 minutes long, and the movie starts on the planet Nimbus 3, where a man is confronted by another man, a Vulcan by the name of Cybok. And Cybok has this ability where he basically can make people unafraid, I guess, because he has that power somehow. And then cutting to Earth, and where Captain Kirk, the captain of the Enterprise, he's climbing a mountain, and Spock, his alien Vulcan friend, arrives with rocket boost next beside him, and he distracts him so he falls, but Spock picks him up. And then cutting back to Nimbus 3 again, where there's a meeting between three parties. I think it's like a human, a Romulan, which is a type of Vulcan, or they are kind of separate, but one of them is good and bad, and a Klingon, which is another alien race about honor. It's hard to explain if you haven't seen Star Trek, but yeah. So they're about to have this secret meeting, and this mob that now Cybok has formed is basically storming the town and taking over, because Cybok needs to leave the planet because he's on a sacred mission to find God. Yeah, that's the plot. So back to the ship, the Enterprise. She's in the dock. She's about to get repairs, and Scotty, the engineer, is repairing, and the machine goes to red alert because it's not working. And him and Aurora are having lunch, but they get interrupted as well. And then cutting back to Spock, Bones, which is the doctor, and Kirk, the captain, and they're sitting in front of a campfire and doing campfire things. So they're drinking whiskey, I guess, and they're eating beans. And they try to teach Spock how to sing "Row, row, row your boat," but Spock doesn't get it, and they go to sleep basically. And then cutting to a Klingon ship shooting at satellites, and this will be the main bad guys of the movie basically, and they will be following the ship Enterprise around. So Spock, Bones, and Kirk get picked up by the Enterprise, and they're supposed to go to Nimbus 3 to pick up the hostages. So that's what they do. They go on the ship, and it's basically falling apart, the whole ship, because it's during repairs. It just arrived at the dock, and for some reason it's the ship that's being nearest or something, so they have to use a half-functioning ship to respond to this distress call. And they can't use the transporters because they're not functioning. So when they go to the planet, they actually have to go down via shuttle, the smaller ship, and they land there. And for some reason, Aurora, one of the females, she does the sensual dance to lure one of the bad guys next to her so they can capture them or whatnot. And then the other guys like Kirk, Spock, and Bones, they go to town, and I think Sula's with them, and basically there's a fighting that takes place, and they get captured, and Cybok basically takes them back to like the Enterprise. But the Klingons are there, so they have to like fly into the shuttle while the shields are up or something, so they actually crash land in the hangar. And at some point during this, Spock basically tells Bones and Kirk that this is his half brother or something. So, yeah, that's the thing. Apparently he has a half brother, not a full brother, but a half brother. So what happens is that he takes over the ship, because Cybok has this ability to control people, or not control them. They call it brainwashing the Enterprise crew, but basically it makes them let go of their fears. I think I said it before, but so they get more compliant and do what he wants. So Cybok wants to find God, and Enterprise is the key. They need to go to like a place to do that. But anyway, Kirk, Spock, and Bones get thrown into the brig, like a cell, and they get left there. So the Enterprise are on their way to Shakari, which, as far as I understand it, is a planet in the middle of the solar system, and they're there to find God. So Scotty basically frees Spock, Kirk, and Bones from their prison, but they are almost immediately recaptured, and Cybok, I should say, not Cyborg. Cybok makes them fly through like this field of the planet, so they enter the atmosphere unharmed, because it was like told before that it will likely kill them or the Enterprise will break or something, but it didn't. So they actually go down via shuttle. He basically, before the scene, actually Cybok shows Bones like a vision, and also show like Spock that his father didn't really like him because he was half human, half Vulcan. And Kirk refuses to have this vision because he needs his pain, because he believes that's what makes him human, I guess, the pain that he has in him. So the Enterprise, as I said, fly through the fields at Shakari, and they end up in a planet above the planet, and they go down via shuttle. Cyborg, Spock, Bones, and Kirk, they basically fly down there to the surface and start to explore. So shortly after that, the Klingon ship approaches, and meanwhile on the surface of the planet of Shakari, there is like some stone structures that are rising, and a bright light, and the god being shows itself. But the other pretty much figure out that it's not a god, and there's like this arguing forward and backwards. Why would a god need a spaceship to basically leave a planet, exposing it as a fake god, like a fraud? So what happens in the end is that Cyborg sacrifices himself to save the others. Spock and Bones are transported out there because Scotty managed to fix the transporters, and then the Klingon ship attacks. So on board the Enterprise, there is this other high-ranking Klingon that basically tells the low-ranking Klingon on the other ship to calm down. So what happens is that Klingon ship actually fires on the god being, and Kirk is brought on the Klingon ship, where the captain actually apologized to him. There's like this whole thing about Klingons and honor, and he was acting outside of the jurisdiction of the Klingon Empire or something by the rule set. So what happens is that afterwards, Spock, Bones, and Kirk, they talk, and everything seems to be fine, and they go out to a camping site, and Spock finally sings "Row, row, row your boat" with the other guys, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. So what do I think about Star Trek V, The Final Frontier? It's a good movie. I remember because it's kind of a funny story. PlayStation Network used to have a film service that they eventually started to downgrade and eventually wanted to shut down. I have no idea why, but you could either rent movies there or you could buy them physically or digitally, I guess. So I bought all the Star Trek movies they had on sale because it was like $2 a piece, right? So I have a lot of Star Trek movies that I technically can watch as long as I have internet. So I was like, well, I want to watch a crazy movie. I had this talk last week to another Twitch friend called Morgana Le Fay, or D Morgana Le Fay. I always call her Mog for short, but she's a Star Trek fan. I was like, well, I'm not that huge into Star Trek, to be honest. I'm more of a Star Wars guy, but I don't understand the whole clashing and the fans being like hating one or the other. So I like Star Trek too. So I was like, what am I gonna watch? There are like a million Star Trek movies. I was like, well, I remember this. I think 5 had the rocket boots with Spock and thing. I think that was a good one. So that's why I picked it. I mean, it's like a relatively short movie. It's kind of okay for what it is. It's a little bit cheesy. Like there's some out of date reference with the sensual dancing of Aurora on Nimbus 3, I'm not a huge Shatner fan. I think he even co-wrote the story, but it's a fine movie for what it is, as I said, and I can recommend it. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. So anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.